Hello, I'm Bianca Khriev. I am an occupational therapist, but I've been working in language education for around 10 years now. And today I'm speaking about empowerment. And I'm arguing that we all understand personal relevance is needed in language learning, but I'm arguing that the minute we connect, that it's automatically personally relevant, and that the minute we have this personal relevance, that then we have the ingredients for empowerment. Next slide, please. So we're moving to the agenda.
Just a second. Yep.
So we're going to do a quick warmer, a Menti, then an overview of theory that I'll speak a little bit about, but there's a lot of core assumptions that I'm assuming experienced teachers already have as a baseline. And then we're going to do a silly activity, but it's not that silly because it allows for connection. And then we will be sharing our back pocket ideas. Every teacher I've ever met has a range of things that need limited resources or can be organized very quickly, but can get any class to connect regardless of the content of that lesson. And then once they connect, they have their learners and they have the beginnings of a good class. And then finally, how we can recognize empowerment in our learners. I will not be telling you that. You will be telling me. And I will ask if people will online, if they can please use the chat box quite often. And then those in the room, if you could raise your hands. Yeah. And the next slide, please. And so please open up menti.com and I will put a code in the chat box for you. We're speaking about empowerment and how does it feel to you? Or you could speak from a learner's perspective, but I find it's easier to speak from your own personal perspective. 5, 4, 8, 7. Okay. And then I'm putting the code in the chat box right now.
Maybe you've yeah.
4719 54 87. That's it.
I will type it in the chat. Can you name it once again?
It's we can see it now.
Oh no, yeah.
Sorry,
cool.
it's there. So please go to menti.com and type in this code and answer the questions. How does empowerment feel? And what does it look like? You could speak from the perspective of a student, but it's just as valuable thinking about your own life, if not more valuable. Oh, could you make a maximum of 3 keywords from each participant rather than full sentences? A maximum of 3 keywords per question.
What exactly is meant by empowerment? Associations really have. What do you feel when you think about empowerment? And what does it mean? Would it be possible to define the word empowerment? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is how we're getting our definition from each other. But I will tell you what my thinking about empowerment. So far we've got positive, but empowerment is not something that you can get from someone. It's not something you can give to someone. It's really something that a learner has to take and that a situation, including the space and the language, has to allow. So as some people think, the word in Vietnamese for empowerment is to get power, to be given power. But that's not really empowerment. Empowerment has this M, which means it's intrinsic, it's deep in us. Yeah, empowerment might look authoritative to some. So I'm going to read what I'm seeing on the Menti so far, and we'll take a screenshot at the end.
I will log in and see what we have, if I can.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So it's saying leadership, well-being.
I don't know if you'll be able to, though.
No, I don't think it will show.
I can share the screenshot.
Okay.
Is everybody done? Maybe, I think so. Are you done?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, give me a few seconds to share the screenshot. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry, give me one more minute. Sorry about the wait.
Not a problem.
Am I sharing?
In the same time, she has this empowerment option, as I understood, because I read this Obama Wild book, and she said about that she doesn't have power as your husband, but she has empowerment to somehow to back his decisions, to guide him, to motivate him,
Yay.
confidence. It's like
Could you say that to us, if you don't mind? Yeah, take a few minutes and discuss what you see with your group, with the people in the room. And then I will ask a few people to give feedback. So discuss with each other first your feelings or your thoughts on this. And then,
To me, I would say that empowerment is believing in our own self and in our own faculties to make things happen. It's about like
autonomy
a
and
positive sense
agency.
of worth, I'd say. That's my
Say that again.
understanding.
Yes, but say the last part.
I was saying it's something about believing in your self-worth, believing in yourself, believing that you have the confidence to make things happen.
Yes, to make things happen, to make mistakes, to express yourself vulnerably. And without that, you're not really connecting. So this connection, personal relevance, and empowerment are all looping around each other. And one can't exist without the other. But we know that in a classroom, we need this. We need our students to own their learning. If they are not, it's not relevant to them, especially since we are often using materials that are a little bit one size fits all. And we are teaching a diverse range of learners. So empowerment allows this connection and this vulnerability, and then it's always relevant. And there's a huge body of research on personal relevance in language learning. Without relevance, it's not happening very well. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, we're going to look at empowerment a little bit more, and we can click. Empowerment is crucial for language learning, and there is a baseline of research. We can't go into that today. That would be too big a workshop, but there's a lot of research on it. And compared to other subjects where you can actually route learn, language learning doesn't work like that. So empowerment is even more important because you actually have to be brave. It takes bravery and vulnerability. Next, click. You can click again, please. Okay, so empowerment makes learners feel motivated, engaged, and confident in their abilities. Without it, they don't have these things. Without these things for language learning, because it's not route memory learning, they do not express themselves and communicate in empowered ways. A look at personal relevance next. You can keep going, next. It's good. And then, so personal relevance and connection are important factors in empowerment. Personal relevance, there's also a huge body of research on this, on how to make great teachers are making their lessons for their specific learners. But in these diverse classrooms, that's difficult. And then also, again, with the materials, that's difficult. So I'm advocating that if we see connection as a root goal in every class, we will always hit empowerment goals. We will always hit personal relevance goals. Next slide. And so making the connections, I'm going to skip to the second one. Authentic communication promotes personal relevance in the classroom. So I'm also advocating against repetition of key languages. Yes, that's one strategy. And especially at the start of language learning, it's a key strategy. But as learning becomes more advanced, I believe authentic speaking is what we need. But how to get learners to speak authentically and bravely, that brings in vulnerability and connection. When the other people are being vulnerable and you are being vulnerable, when you feel connected with the other people in the room. Empowerment can't exist in isolation. So you cannot become empowered in a room alone. You are empowered related to the people around you, related to your ability to make mistakes, ask questions, speak up. And when we're speaking about language, speaking up is the key factor. And then fostering these factors leads to learner success, goal achievement, and lifelong love of language and communication. We're creating a growth mindset in our learners because they own their learning, taking agency. That's what Sarah said earlier. Okay, next. Okay, we are going to do a quick drawing activity. So this activity is not about empowerment, and it's not about empowerment, and it's not about any specific topic, but you can use it in any classroom, and it is a 2-minute activity that allows learners to connect with each other. And I'm arguing that that's automatically relevant in any lesson. Get them to connect first rather than a brain break, and then move into the content, because they'll be more vulnerable with their partner or with the other people in the room. So please grab a piece of paper and grab a partner. Please sit across from your partner.
Let's do it, Vlad.
Oh, and people online, you can turn on your cameras if you're there and draw each other, the two online members.
We have to draw each other?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
No, I'm going to, I didn't know you're ready. Sorry. So you found, everyone's got a partner? Are you drawing me, Sarah?
No, I'm driving. I'm drawing the IT technician.
Oh, good. And so you're going to start like this. First. Oh, next click, sorry. I'm clicking here on the arrow. Don't lift your pen at all. You will be drawing one continuous line.
One line.
Don't look at your page. You will only look at the other person. My partner and I can give you an example. So we're not going to look at our drawing. We're not going to lift our pen even once. And I'm only going to look into her eyes. She will only look into mine. There's a lot of research on looking someone in the eyes like this and about connection. And so we're going to have 2 minutes to do this. Are you ready, Chow? All right. I want to be clear. Give you a green one. Hello from Vietnam, everyone. Hello, this is Chow Nguyen. She's a part of Workshop It. Oh, hi. There you go. Is Chris there? Chris, are you there? Because it would be great if there's a partner to draw you. Okay, Chow, I think I'm going to do it with...
I am here, but the problem is like I am going around with my kids at the moment. So
okay, no
I
worries.
can listen, but I cannot participate that much.
Okay. Daiga, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. Could you turn your mic on? Have you got your paper and pen? Okay, and we are going to look each other in the eye. Everybody, you can do with us, or you can watch the example first. I don't mind. And her and I are not looking down. You may not look at your page once you start. One continuous line. So there you go. I'm watching you. I'm the police for you, and you are the police for me. I've got an eyebrow and a nose.
Should we start with the timer?
Yes, please start with the timer. Don't look at your page. Don't lift your pen. Now I'm moving to hair. I don't know if
It's
you're
gonna
gonna.
be terrible. Don't kitchen it.
Beautiful.
2 minutes. You're gonna look like a giant potato.
I looked down. I'm sorry. I was cheating.
Yeah, we can't lift it up. I'm trying to draw eyes. I think I'm a bit too confident. You're gonna look like a Picasso at best, a potato at worst.
Wow.
Oh,
I just want to look.
Very happy with what I did. You done?
Oh, it's
Whoa,
blurry.
that's good.
Oh, nice, Sarah. Good job.
Thank you.
Sorry, but you look like a spaniel.
Wow. Okay, good job, but you lifted the pen, so then you lose where you are on the drawing. But
You're
good job.
cheating.
We're gonna do one
Oh,
more.
we have
Find
something
a
here.
new partner.
Sarah
Yeah.
Picasso Badet.
Here.
You can click to the next slides, please.
But you know, it's kind of like the lead actually managed to show the whole body.
Click to the next slide, please. Didn't share their drawings. Okay. Quick debrief. How did you feel connected? I'm giving you some suggestions. No, actually talk to each other first. Dega, how did you feel connected?
How did you feel connected?
Uh,
Well, you cheated. We already established that. You did it too
Very
quickly.
intense.
yeah.
We don't even
How
know
do I
each
feel
other's
connected?
names.
Can you unmute Dega, please?
Let's unmute everybody.
Okay, but it's very intense. Word of content.
Do you think it's intense?
Short
Vlad?
period of time.
Yeah, it was. I was more thinking about the time limit than actually, like just because I cannot look at the paper, I had to kind of imagine the route I took with my hand
Mhm.
Looking at me and we laugh.
because I wanted to get the proportions right at least, but most obviously I got only your eyes in the form of the head, nose, mouth.
Spaniel.
everything.
Español. Not Spaniel. That would have been better.
But there's no chance for getting it right, right?
These were
Impossible.
supposed to be your hair.
Oh. Well, I can't. Well, I don't know how you managed to draw my legs without being able to see them.
I imagined it. It's like AI imagining things in the photos.
Well, I don't
Don't
know.
give yourself
You
away,
know, so
technician.
much about the result. It was. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just focusing so much on watching you.
I guess it was totally the way around for me. I was more focused on what I'm doing
Mm.
rather than yeah. And I like tried to The main problem for me is that I wanted to get the proportions somewhat right. At least I'd like to your like two eyes to be on the same level.
Mm.
Okay, we're going to move along. Can the two girls over there, I'm sorry, two women over there with the blazer, do you have any feedback? Something that you felt? I was listening to Sarah and technician who likes to be perfect. Sarah doesn't have that problem.
That's my nickname now.
Mr. Perfect? Technician. Do they have anything to say? Won't you guide them, Sarah, please?
I would say, yeah, it was. It's difficult to draw for 2 minutes without knowing exactly what you are doing, but I would say it was. I mean, I've never ever looked at Vlad this way before, with such an intensity and trying to grasp his face. And yeah, it was interesting. It is true, but it's building up a connection that we've never had before. No, that's true.
Do you feel engaged in this moment right now? Do you feel like
totally.
you've made a mistake and it doesn't matter? Do you feel like
I'm actually I feel like I should start abstract drawing personally. So thank you, Bianca.
powerful? Do either of those women in the room, I can only see two people, do they have anything to say? Any feedback?
Oh, you know, I used this task first in my life. Like I draw many partners when I had some seminars. But in this case, when you're watching an eyes connection and you like focus not what you're drawing, but you're focused on your partner. And even I told to my partner, but in my future, I want to implement this task, but I will ask you draw, for example, fear, some positive experience that later our partners can discuss. And it's good to use.
Yes. So you could discuss anything. Usually though, I'm using this more as an art therapy technique. And so then people tell each other how beautiful they are. Because while you're doing this, you end up seeing how beautiful wrinkles are and that their face would lose something if they didn't have that line. And I find it quite special. But yes, it creates instant connection. Can you click the buttons, please, for this slide, a few of them. So we're showing something that's imperfect. That is a connection, that is a connecting point. And then teachers can model this kind of vulnerability, model our mistakes, model asking Google openly. In Asia, it's missing a little bit. We're saving face all the time rather than going, oh, I have no idea. Let's research it, which is what we should be teaching them because we have access to everything now. So feeling vulnerable, eye contact with someone else, there's a massive body of research on how that connects people. And then it's real and it's authentic and it's non-threatening. It's just you and this other person. And even if you don't know them at all, or even if you know them well, this is a moment. Okay, and then the next slide, we're gonna draw one more time. Please find a new partner. So, Ciao, do you want to come?
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of new here.
There you go, you've got a new face.
Hello. All right.
We need a.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Daiga.
Understand that we have to change. Right?
Yeah.
Prefer me with or without my glasses?
You French teacher? Yes.
Make it more difficult. All right.
Can you join me here?
And you can start the timer. If people have found a partner, you can stop the timer. Don't forget eye contact. This time, please take the slides.
Yeah, we
Are
have
we
two
doing the
more.
same thing?
We have two more participants online. If Chris cannot use the
Are we
camera,
Whoa.
join us for this exercise.
And then also this time, use your other hand. If you're right-handed, use your left hand. If you're left-handed, use your right hand.
With the other hand.
It's gonna make one worse.
Okay. And one conscious one.
All right, let's use our left hand.
Did you hear me? This time, the wrong hand, not the same hand as last time.
Right. With
Oh,
Daiga.
you take this on the page?
Yeah,
ready?
I feel
We
it.
don't think any total. Ah,
Daiga, eye contact, and she's gonna begin.
Oh, my God.
I'm looking at it. I think that I'm gonna make you worse. A bit older than you really are. But that's brave. That's daring. Page.
We can work more. What do you fast?
I have to start my career as a. Oh, well done.
Did we stop?
Yeah, sure, stop. And talk to your partner again. Show your partner your work.
Yeah.
I'm beautiful.
Can I introduce yourself?
I think that's a Santa Claus.
My name is
Uh-huh.
Oh,
There is
I definitely.
Yeah, I
I see them recently. I think it's quite clear.
The bird.
Well done. You-
Oval things. You have like.
yeah, no, sorry, I kind of butchered it.
It's fine.
like I'm like, you know, there are people that are kind of right-handed, but they also can do things with their left hand. I'm like totally right-handed. I cannot even like, I don't know, even on the keyboard, I find it stuff. Like, for example, I'm eating with my right hand and I have to use my left hand, it's a problem. Like worse, I cannot even find the letters with the left hand that I usually use the right hand. So yeah.
I don't know what I was trying to
Can
do.
you type on your phone? Please?
Yeah, it's with both hands. Like, and that's it, like, and
Yeah,
like, when I have to use one hand, for example, on the right hand, it's
Mm.
also a bit of a struggle. But the left hand is way worse at it because I'm like right hand. So even if I like have to type, so this is why when I'm eating, I'm actually eating my left hand and working with the right hand
Mhm.
because it knows a lot more keys by the muscle memory than the left hand.
Okay. So you are kids with what we're going to do.
What can I say? In a perfect world, yeah.
Mhm.
Job is like I'm doing the courses in high school.
Ah, okay.
It's about career development, about how.
And you've got 1 more minute, just finish up your discussion. 1 more minute, finish up your discussion.
And cheaper.
Mhm.
As a non-Missouri, you have 3 teachers in your class. One teacher speaks Latvian, another Russian, no, English and French, right?
No, we don't have three teachers in a class, but when you're talking about primary now. In primary, there's a homeroom teacher and then a TA. But then also kids are studying 2 languages. So if they are Latvian, yes, no, actually 3 languages. If they are Latvian native speakers, they're gonna have, well, all their lessons will be in English, they will have a Latvian.
Beautiful, well done. Okay, guys, can Tech Guy, do you want to give us feedback? We need a new speaker to give us a little, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, could you, Mr. Tech?
Mr. Vlad, yeah, thanks. Yeah, like this is my problem. I as a host did not introduce myself, so that's on me. Vlad.
Okay, Mr. Vlad.
Yeah, so I don't know, like for me, for my experience, it was way harder to draw with my hand. I don't know, maybe I should like go to the camera side so at least you can see the person that is talking. So I don't know, like when I look at my kids, they're kind of like the older son is mostly right-handed, while the daughter, she's younger, she's like bi-handed. So currently she can use both hands easily, and like if I project myself to it, I'm like totally right-handed. Even so that when I'm eating, let's say while working, I usually eat with my left hand and work with the right hand because this is the same hand I use to type on the mobile phone if I'm using one hand to type, because right hand knows more muscle memory than the left hand for specific tasks. So, and if I would go the way around, so if I would, for example, eat a soup at the keyboard, which I usually don't, and work with my left hand, that would give me a lot of trouble because the left hand only knows the left portion of the keyboard and totally doesn't know the right one. So I will have to specifically look for the keys. So this is what I noticed while drawing. So it was.
Did you feel this in your head? Could you feel it? Like almost like having a stroke. You feel this disconnect.
It was way harder for me to focus while drawing with the left hand, and I actually had to pay more attention to my subject that I'm drawing rather than the previous. Like in the previous task, I had to focus more of like how good it will be. Well, this time I was more focused on like, can I get it at all? Like I even had problems to find the page borders basically. And I butchered that image as well, so.
So these activities are from a book called Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. So that feeling that you have is the common feeling when people use chopsticks for the first time or use their left hand. But the beauty of these activities is they help you think creatively. So these kind of warmers help you get connected, help you think creatively, and can really start the process of empowerment. When you feel like the result is not the key, the process is the key. When a student learns that how they're doing it with this other person is much more important than the end result. There are several things that make this a powerful activity, but it's a really good warmer for developing creativity. Okay, and then can we move to the next slide? Change rooms. Okay, that's fine. Next. And, oh, sorry, can you go back one more time? Second, yeah, did you feel connected? Did you feel vulnerable? A lot of people really struggle with imperfection. Yeah, and then the next slide, vulnerability. If our students are little soldiers without the opportunity to be creative, they will not be the kind of learners who can ask for help, which is a massive factor in having a growth mindset. And all learning starts with a question. Many students are expecting to know everything already, but actually, if they don't have a question first, there is no answer. So I'm often telling them, no, they're like, I don't know anything about this. And I'm like, yes, I want you to have nothing about this. I want your brain to be going, what is this? So that when you get the answer, you remember it. And I feel like teachers and learners in modern society are just aiming towards the correct answer, and it removes opportunity for vulnerability. And admitting that you might be afraid, teachers can model this, and this allows for students to get into it. So vulnerability is powerful. And as we become connected with other people, we automatically become vulnerable if we feel safe. And a vulnerable classroom is a classroom where everybody will be able to express themselves authentically, and they're not trying to be perfect. For language development, imperfect expression is better than repetition of key perfect language. So finding activities that allow for connection, allow for empowerment, allow for personal relevance. I'm going to keep repeating the same thing, but that's what I'm driving from. And next slide, please. Okay, so these small, simple activities, and next, allow for connection, activating the learner's ability to express themselves, creativity, vulnerability, feelings of agency. I did this, not somebody else, ownership of their learning. And then the content becomes relevant as they connect and show vulnerability. So I'm saying any classroom, regardless of content, if we allow them to connect with each other and be vulnerable, they will be empowered and it will be relevant to their life, even if they're talking about accounting. If they're talking about it with another person and confidently and naturally, even if they didn't care about it before, connection drives this caring, this personal relevance of content. Okay, and then next slide. Textbooks aren't always relevant. Our learners are totally diverse and have different cultures, different life experience, especially second language learners. We aren't all coming from the same background. Next. So great teachers spend a lot of time designing content. So taking the content they've been given and making it through planning and design, making it relevant to the learner's level, and possible for culturally relevant. However, it's not always possible. So I'm advocating as a sub-goal of every lesson to be connection. If every lesson has a sub-goal of connection, every brain break, every activity, you're like, oh, but how do they connect? You will meet your goals because personal relevance is automatic. And the next. So this will help every lesson become relevant to every learner because connection is relevant. It's vulnerable, it's relevant. And then the learner's ability to make content their own will change through connecting with each other. Could you, go back one more. Could you please work with your group and just write down 4 or 5 sentences that you think. So there's only 4 of you in the room. If you could sit around one table with one paper and just brainstorm 4 or 5 sentences around the link between connection, personal relevance, and empowerment or vulnerability in the classroom. They really go hand in hand. So just make a little group and discuss. And then when you're done, could you put it in the chat box? Or no, you can read it to me loud. There's only 4. Yeah. You've got 4 minutes.
So connection, empowerment,
What else do we have?
Yeah.
There was one more, connection, empowerment, vulnerability. Bianca,
Sorry.
you
Yes.
said connection, empowerment, vulnerability, and
Personal relevance. So we've got all
Personal.
these children from different cultures, different backgrounds. How are we going to make this topic of, often it's even a topic of wealth, topic that's not relevant to their life. Maybe they're not wealthy at all. How do we make it relevant to every learner? This vulnerability, this connection. Yeah, but so I want your thinking about that, or examples from your classroom.
Examples from our classroom?
it could be trying students to share a personal experience. So that would be a personal relevance because they're talking about them, in which they failed, but learn a lot of things out of.
Like on students?
Yeah, their own experience, something that they did in their life, they were not successful, but they learned a lot of things about it. How did that make them feel?
The interaction can be like another students can give kind of feedback or some command, what can make, for example, force one to make even better. Like something like to have a feedback, like I'm telling and I receive.
Okay,
Like here, we draw and at the same time we receive the drawing.
so you mean accepting feedback from the others?
Kind of, or just suggestions, or for example, some motivational speech. Because like when I fail, I always say about weak skills or something about like bad about why I failed. We are always trying to find this reason why I failed, right? In this case, maybe you can just give some feedback if you feel what you should do. I'm thinking like this interaction.
What do you guys think?
I'm blind.
I don't know what we're supposed to do, and I'm gonna have
To write sentences.
This project is not possible, like in five universities in Baltic states. And they spoke about intercultural class. It's like future for all classes in high schools. And main focus was on receiving and giving feedback. And some like teamwork activities, like something that all students can create together, all together.
You studied medical?
No, that's so smart. Doing, I'm a career leader for your seminar in this setup. Just we are part of different projects. But the topic is about how to unite all these international students, how to unite an environment for all of them.
But I feel like for personal experience, relevancy has to come from personal experience. So like the student needs to talk about themselves. Vulnerability, something related to not being successful. Empowerment, how they overcome it. I don't know. Or it could be sharing experience of what does it feel like to travel or to live in a new country in which you don't understand the language.
Learn the language.
Yeah. But focusing like small things on things like when we have lunch, when we do break, what should I notice if we have time?
Okay. But it should work really in teamwork.
If there's anyone online, please feel free to use the chat box to share your thoughts with each other.
Are lost, some understand better, some have some experience, some don't, something horrible, like.
Sarah will be that one student like that aced everything and we'll just go Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys done?
Kind of.
You need a few more minutes?
I think it's okay.
Okay. There's one woman in the room who I haven't spoken to yet. Could she give us some feedback? What does she think about the link between these things? The woman not in the blazer, the other woman. Sorry, I don't know your names. The woman across from Sarah. Yes,
this
with the
is
stripy shirt. Hello.
Hey. This is probably the worst moment to give me a word because I don't know what to say. I'm completely lost. I'm not connected. I feel vulnerable. I don't know what was the task.
I'm
like one of
so
those-
sorry.
I'm like one of
Okay.
those still students, I guess, in the classroom where I'm not following.
Okay. So can you tell me what you believe the importance of personal relevance is in education, in language learning?
My personal relevance?
Personal relevance. Often our
personal-
textbook is not relevant or culturally relevant. So why is personal relevance important in a classroom? Relevance to each individual child or person.
Be engaged, that the language I learn is really meaningful, if I understand right. That I can
Yes.
use what I learn in real life, something like that.
So could you argue that the minute they have connected with another person, because we are such social creatures, that even if the content is not that interesting, because they've connected with this other person, it becomes relevant to their life because they want to share with this person, not necessarily about the topic or the content. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I'm getting closer.
Okay, so my argument is to always use connection to help make any content relevant, because people, as soon as they engage and feel vulnerable, they start to feel empowered too. And it's always relevant. Empowerment is also relevant. It feels good for any learner, regardless of the topic. When they start getting these feelings, they will be present with the content. So that's what I'm getting at. Then quickly look the pictures over there, the next one. So self-expression. So like these quick activities, self-expression, vulnerability, connection is far more powerful for learning than repetition of perfect key language. There is a place for this repetition of perfect key language. But I feel like in second language acquisition and teaching, we focus on it way too much. It doesn't develop confidence. It develops accuracy, but it doesn't develop understanding, and it doesn't emphasize the focus on the need for it to be relevant. If it's not relevant, there's no point. And so my suggestion is that key language has a place for very new language learners. But beyond that, imperfect self-expression is more powerful. Okay, the next page. So I'm wanting you, every teacher I've ever met has a massive range of back pocket activities. So like this is one of mine. Something the class isn't focused, a kind of brain break where they feel connected to each other. It often stops a fight, maybe even. It's powerful and I use it regularly. I have one or two others that I can whip out of my back pocket. What are your back pocket activities? If you've been teaching for more than 1 year, you have them. And so if you could write them out and put them in the chat box, I know that might take a little bit of time, but I want to steal them from you and I would like you to steal them from each other. I always learn more from training from other teachers than the trainer. So now train each other. So you can discuss for a few minutes. Do you understand that, Sarah?
Yeah. It's just I'm thinking that we don't have access to the.
I will type them.
Okay, to the chat box. So,
So
yeah.
chat with each other. Okay. Yes, we can make it a quick debate. Chris.
Like teamwork, and some was
No,
I use debates.
Team tasks like
I can give an
like-
example. I just or just recently, that's why it came to my mind. Topic art. We started the class by doing group work, 5 people in 3 groups. I gave each group 2 spoons and 2 forks, same set. And in 5 minutes, they had to come up with a piece of art. just creative activity.
Yeah.
And think of a concept, like present the concept really, really fast just at the beginning of the class. And they have fun with this, they laugh,
Oh, it's
they
so cool.
so just on the table, they created it was a very good way how to speak about art, like the main aspect or the main element, which is creativity. They connected, they had fun with it, and then we started the class. That's a good example.
I would say for me as a language teacher, it would be ice-breaking activity for the first lesson. So it would be depend on the level. Like one truth, one lie, for instance. And I would start with my own example. So I would say something that's true, something that's a lie, and they will have to guess which one is what. So like this way they get to know me. And then I get to know them as well, because everybody will say that too, but they can't be total beginners.
Yeah, but how does that work?
One truth, one lie. So everybody says
Okay.
go.
And you have to guess which is lie, which is
Exactly.
true. I also use that word, two true and one lie.
Oh yeah.
So that you can-
Even I will use my experience, like almost I'm teaching in the lectures for Erasmus projects when I have these international classes. And it's like an icebreaker, but it's a different level. I give a piece of paper and it's written like I run marathons, I do something, and in 10 minutes you should collect all the like the checks or signatures. And like you are not only sitting and talking, but you're like walking, having around. Yeah, of course you need like a bigger class for these activities, but at the same time, like
Or kitchen.
yeah.
So is it like a bingo sheet? And then
Kind of, but like with different activities, what you have done. And you should find people, for example, cook breakfast, like to order food, just like simple things.
Yeah. To find like
Yeah.
common
Common
points and
yeah.
what brings people together.
And then at the end of the day, like when we finish the activities, you are standing in a circle and just like, again, talking about, it makes fun.
Yeah.
But again, it's not for beginners, it's more like for secondary school kind of.
Yeah.
Something
Students I can speak. Are you working with university in France?
I'm working in university.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's like.
One more minute. Sorry.
Yeah, some lessons like.
How much time do I have left, Mr. Vlad?
10 minutes? Could be.
10 minutes?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have about 10, 12 minutes.
Okay. So then my final question, we're not 100% sure on empowerment. Could you Google empowerment, use your device and just look into empowerment and empowerment in the classroom? And then I would like that in the chat box too. What does an empowered learner look like? So when I'm in the class, if I come watch a demonstration class from somebody else, and if I'm looking for empowered learners, how do I recognize that? I'll start with saying it's a speak up culture. If I can see this class is active and wants to speak up, it's an empowered room. And then what are your ideas about? So first, Googling empowerment. Can you put this on the board somewhere for me, Vlad? So first, Googling empowerment, and then how do you recognize it? Eyes glowing, that's nice, Carmen. Yes, there is a light.
Just
And often that's linked to connection, Carmen, that light, I think, more than anything else.
So what should we Google? Empowered?
So Google empowerment, please. Empowerment, and maybe empowerment in learning. And then step 2 is tell me what it looks like in a student in your room. When you're like, yes, that kid owns they can make mistakes, they own their learning. They're self-driven to be here. I don't have to externally motivate them. How does that look? Glowing eyes, a speak up culture, no fear of interrupting. I love it when my students interrupt me at the right times, but when they're too scared to interrupt, I often see that as a dead classroom.
Sorry.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I just like read this meaning and definition as empowerment in a classroom. And it somehow relates to student-centered approach, what now we have in Latvia. When we give like some power to students, and not only I'm as a teacher, I'm a leader, like but even students, right, have this like at some percentage with leaders' power in a class, right?
Yes, thank you for saying that, the student-centered approach, because the minute it's student-centered, it will be personally relevant. That's why we plan for that. We plan to make our content student-centered, but often it's not possible. So I'm aiming at these quick connection activities that flow over into the more boring work that we just have to cover. I'm saying that connection needs to be a sub-goal. It will lead to empowerment. It gives you personal relevance. Personal relevance is student-centered. Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's a very clear key language of, I think I've been trying to say that without using that exact phrase. Well done. Yeah, thank you for your help. Anybody else? What is empowerment?
I would say that an empowered student or an empowered class would be a student that's confident enough to make mistakes, but feel responsible for their own learning, but that's gonna be active, not passive, not waiting for the content to be delivered or knowing exactly what to what to learn. No, it's not exactly what I want to say, but active,
Be comfortable with not knowing.
In charge of their own learning and accepting making mistakes and asking for support and knowing what they need, knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and being able to build on strategies to fill in some gaps or to use their strength accordingly to improve.
Yes, and then also weaknesses that aren't crippling you. People who aren't empowered, myself too sometimes, if you get criticized, then it's crippling. And then when you're having more empowered moments, more empowered spaces, more empowered workplaces, suddenly you're like, oh, I can handle criticism. It's totally okay because I know I am. So empowerment is really a lot about self-understanding. But the way you run your class, the language you use, and the way you allow for connection allows for empowerment. You cannot steal it from anyone. Empowerment is something that starts here. It's a little bit quiet. It grows quietly at night. Like it's a little bit small and you can't see it. And then suddenly it's there. Yeah. And when, as a teacher, you're doing an excellent job, you get fewer thanks because they're not relying on you. They absolutely own their learning. So then they're not going, oh, teacher, thank you for everything. They're going, I did it all. I am it. I did it. And so it becomes a little bit more thankless, but if it's your goal, it's not thankless because it's amazing to watch. Yeah. And so empowerment in workplaces is important too. Empowerment amongst teachers where you share your ideas with each other. We create knowledge together, not in isolation, because we cannot be empowered in a silo. We are only empowered related to the other people around us. I'm empowered related to the space I'm in with other people and connections. And that is it. I'm sorry if some of that was confusing or you weren't always sure what to do. Does anybody have some questions? Any questions? We've got 5 minutes left. Maybe.
Would you have maybe a list of activities that could be implemented in class on top of what we've seen already to facilitate empowerment?
So making sure that you don't give information, making sure that your class becomes comfortable with not knowing. They hate it. They're like, why am I filling out this form before you taught me this? Backward design. They don't like it. It feels uncomfortable, but then getting them used to it and that they start realizing, oh, I didn't need it. Half of the content made sense. The other half I started to question. And then I only had to research the words I didn't know anymore. So using it, especially for vocabulary learning, when it's a lot of content, I feel like, making ways for them to discover it on their own and being comfortable with not knowing. Because they often, teacher, what's this? And I'm like, look at the board and you've got your device. And that's what they need for the rest of their lives into university. So if we're training them to need us too much, we are hurting them. Okay, and then somebody said, I'm working this year with a child, 2nd grade, who has special needs, and he's the most creative child they've ever met. I feel as if empowerment, in his case, comes from within. He really wants to develop in all ways. Wow. And so, Carmen, could you tell us or think about any ways you are fostering classroom that allows for empowerment, connection, personal relevance, personal drive? How do you help this student and all students to develop his empowerment, his autonomy, his personal power? Okay, so if Carmen heard that, if you want to answer or type, that would be great. Does anyone have suggestions for that? Have you ever seen a child who actually has some problems, but is so creative and has a lot of personal drive to just be involved with the world? And then how do you foster that? How do you keep that going? A lot of classrooms tell that child to sit and do the opposite of fostering it. Any ideas from the room?
I would say after COVID, like in Latvia, we had a strict rules for a few years. It was a communication problem in a class. But again, we enter a class like in person after this COVID rules. I think like each teacher has said something about this. I don't know about Exupery, but like in my primary public school, we had this. Students were like quite close. They were so attached to these digital things. And I think this topic is empowerment is quite trendy now because we are trying to get back on this in-person cooperation in a class, like to create teamwork. And according to School 2030, the priority is to build the teams in a class, to implement teamwork. Even teachers should again learn how to work in the teams. So today I was quite interested to hear how you sell this idea from another perspective. Not like now I will act and involve students in student-centered approach, but how we will share empowerment in all members of a class team, I would say like this. Yeah.
And so connection to hit that. Connection, these tiny, silly activities that seem like nothing to hit your empowerment goals. And then it will be student-centered. It will be more relevant because the student is engaged with other people. Yeah, and taking ownership. Does anybody have any more questions? Oh, I feel as if empowerment. Praising, yes. So I'm still in Asia and a lot of focus is on giving negative feedback. And you feel, I get this feeling that people feel really smart when they can point out all the problems in something else. And I do the same thing. But people thrive in the workplace and in the classroom. We thrive on praise. We thrive on knowing that we've got something good already to build on. So if we're only focusing on the weaknesses, students aren't aware of all the good they've got. And I forget this sometimes. I know we know it, but as teachers, we have to keep repeating this to each other and to ourselves. Okay, and allowing them to make mistakes. Yeah. And then also how to fix those mistakes with them, or how to get to the correct answer without making them feel small, with them feeling that speaking up was the right decision rather than the wrong one. Yeah. Thank you, Carmen. Anybody else?
Well, I have a comment. I've had experience with dyslexic students. I had several of them, and I think, well, as far as my experience goes, they usually are very hardworking, and I think this is how they feel. They naturally has this need for empowerment. Am I right? And
can you speak a little more? Elaborate a little?
well, often they it takes more time for them to understand things, they need longer time to read and comprehend. So they're more empowered.
Because they have to own their learning. They wouldn't learn anything if they didn't put in that extra energy, that extra effort, that deep need.
They have to put in extra effort, exactly, because they can't dwell just on a teacher. They need to do a lot of work on their own.
You're touching on something interesting. It's in adversity that we grow the most. And so there's some irony that you're seeing these learners with special needs as empowered learners because they're putting in that effort. And the ironic thing is, as they become adults, IQ, nature, nurture, the studies are showing that it really is your environment and it really is your feedback within that environment. And so possibly these special needs assist this learner in some ways to achieve more than other people who maybe don't have this problem and then don't focus as much and then don't try as much and then don't see themselves winning, don't have that feeling of success. I did it and look at me go. If I'm just always doing it without trying, and then suddenly you get older and you have to try, I think that hurts a lot of bright learners. They never have to try, and suddenly they do. And then they're like, but I've never had to. What's happening? And they don't understand, oh, you do this work and then you get something. I think I have that a bit with music. I love music, but it feels too difficult to keep trying with it. And so I haven't taken it anywhere, but I feel like if I had just gone that not good enough is okay. This is difficult for me and I'll do it badly for 5 years. Instead, I wanted to be very good at it sooner. And so I don't play an instrument. Okay, if we know the class well, more positive reinforcement from Chris. And then if we know the class well, we know when to show the mistake they've done. Yes, if you know the learner well and the class well, and also if they know that you make mistakes. If you're like, whoops, I have no idea. Let's go ask Google. Or, sorry, that was totally my mistake. If we say this kind of things to our students, I think teachers have often wanted to be perfect. And if we show them that we're not, I think that goes a long way into allowing them to be imperfect. Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you,
Otherwise,
Bianca, for sharing. And actually, like, small comment from my side that I guess it's very good of you to touch on this topic, because I, as a teacher, usually do remember that at school we first teach, then we assess, but real life does it the way around. It first assesses you, then it teaches you. And right you are that, like, students have to be comfortable with making mistakes. They have to be comfortable with trying new things, because this is how it happens in real life.
Yes. Yeah. And then, yeah, you foster a class like that. You can see a class with a teacher who has let them make mistakes, who lets them own it. They're brave, they're bold. Vulnerability is a superpower, not a weakness.
Okay, thank you once again, Bianca. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, we're going to have a break. See you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye, Sarah. See you. Come on. Bye-bye.